So you're thinking about using an agency and outsourcing some of your digital marketing. So for today's episode, I'm going to walk through some tips on what to look for, what to ask different agencies to make sure you have the right fit for your company. Don't miss out.
Welcome to IndustrialSage, a free video podcast series all about digital marketing for industrial manufacturers. Hear interviews with your peers and find out how they're solving the same challenges that you might be facing in your own field. Coming to you from the Optimum Production Studio in Atlanta, Georgia, this is IndustrialSage.
Okay, so for today's episode, I'm going to talk about some pros and cons on working with agencies, some tips really on what you should ask and how to kind of go on this process. Because a lot of times we get asked this a lot through Optimum and XK Digital. If you don't know who that is, that's really the two companies that are behind IndustrialSage, the media company. It's us, and we get asked this question a lot through IndustrialSage as well. And so a lot of companies will come in and they'll say, hey, this whole digital thing we definitely need to go down this road. But how, should we work with an agency? Should we not? And if we do, what should we look for in an agency? So I'll tell you first off, you don't always necessarily need to outsource that. I know that may sound weird, saying, well, Danny, these guys are saying this. Why would you say that? And the reality of it is, depending on what you're trying to, your growth strategy, what you're trying to do, you may be able to, to do that with your in-house resources. Now, that being said, you need to make sure you have internal resources. And by internal resources, you need to have, one or two marketing people, I would say, on staff. Because if you're going to work with an agency, they're going to need to work with somebody internally that really lives, eats, and breathes everything that's going on in your manufacturing company every single day. So, typically what can happen is a lot of the work that's done, there's a lot of content work, there's a lot of investigation, a lot of research, and a lot of bouncing ideas to make sure that everything is actually fitting what works for your end user and aligns with different campaigns and objectives that you're trying to do. So we find it really helpful for us anyways, if there is a team, one person or a couple people, that are already established there in the company that we can go to, because if it's just the owner, that can be a little bit difficult. The owner or just one other person who's not necessarily in marketing, because there is a lot of bandwidth that gets soaked up. For example, it's like, hey, okay, we're going to put together a content strategy and we're going to figure out all the different blog articles, the different types of content that we're going to put out for the next year, and we need to run these articles by you or this, just make sure everything's all on the right piece. And just a lot of questions and stuff like that. And if that availability and that bandwidth isn't there, it can become very difficult for an agency to do the work for you. Now, the next thing I would would go into is just there's a million agencies out there, and I'm sure you know that if you're starting to go down this road. And part of the challenge is that it's almost like there's specialty agencies. There's agencies that say, hey, listen, we just do pay-per-click, PPC, Google AdWords, that's our thing, or maybe we do SEM work. Well, what's SEM? Well, they're search engine marketing, which is very generic. That could be, we do PPC, Google AdWords, or we do Google AdWords and email campaigns and landing pages, Facebook ads, Instagram, or maybe it's just Instagram and Facebook ads. And there's so many agencies that are very niche, which is nice. We just focus on this industry, or we focus on just this particular tactic, but we do it really, really well. Or there's ones that say, listen, we cover the gamut. And so that can be a little bit of a challenge to figure out, hey, when we start going down this road, who do we need? Because unfortunately, not every agency, they're not all created equal. Everyone's got their strengths and their weaknesses. I can tell you that one of the great values is if you start going down this road, is looking for somebody who's got, maybe not 100% focused on the niche in the manufacturing space, or at least understands it to a certain degree. I would say at a bare minimum, make sure you've got an agency that understands B2B, because even like a B2C to B2B play is a little bit different. We've run into this several times where we've had clients that come in and say, yeah, we're working with an agency, and they're more B2C focused, and they just don't understand our audience. We have two different audiences, and there's different needs and there's different personas there. and it's all about the brand, which is great. Don't get me wrong, brand is really important, but there's sometimes an element of like, tactical selling or different types of content that you go down the funnel, they just don't get or value. I'll give you a really good example. We're big fans of using, training and education inside the marketing funnel. So we find a lot of success with using, doing training videos or different pieces that can be actual pre-sales and post-sales. And it's incredibly valuable there. That's something on the B2C side that isn't necessarily, might not translate as well, depending. I'm saying very, generic statements here. So, just bear that in mind. But yeah, those are just some of those different nuances, and also understanding the whole, the different dealer or distributor relationships, versus going directly to the end user, where a lot of manufacturers, we can have a mixture of that. Channel partners, or maybe, we've got our RSMs, we've got independent salespeople that aren't on, W2 or on W2s, and just a lot of different situational things. That there's a lot of understanding that an agency who's going to be niched, that we understand this, we know what this is. Like, we've done work, we know what lockout tagout procedures are, and things like that. We know what PPE is. There's different acronyms and things that can help to kind of identify, like, hey, these guys really do understand this industry versus not. And that doesn't mean that an agency who doesn't have that experience isn't going to be a good fit. It just means that maybe there are some there's potential learning curve that you're going to have to go through. But I can tell you, for the most part, what our experience has been is that we've had a lot of clients and talked to other IndustrialSage subscribers that talk about that, when you do work with an agency that understands the industry, you understand the manufacturing, you understand the process, you understand the challenges, you understand the relationships, with distributors, and understanding that, manufacturers have a big challenge of getting end user data, because if we go through distribution, that's a great channel partner, but getting that data can be really difficult, and that's a unique challenge, and having solutions around that and how to solve that can be very valuable. So that's one other thing that I would put out as well. Another thing in this is one thing that we're pretty big on, is making sure that you align yourselves with an agency who is actually going to provide valuable information and not just be either a Me Too agency or a yes agency. And what do I mean by that? So Me Too, I mean like, an agency that doesn't bring any like measurable differentiation. It's just like, oh yeah, PPC, yeah, we can do that too. Email marketing, yeah, we can do that too. And there's not like a very strong value prop there. And maybe that value prop is, yeah, we can do all these different things, but we're in this space, we're in the manufacturing space, we understand that. Or we have a particular solution around answering that question on how to build end user data, working with distributors, and trying to get that in there. We do that through XYZ platform, or a suite of services or solutions that we have around that. And by the yes agency, I mean by you want pushback. The reason why you should be hiring an agency is that because you're getting that expertise, and it should be them coming in and helping to be able to lay out a strategy and being able to say, hey, this is where we need to be going, and asking you a lot of questions versus you asking them a lot of questions, and then you telling them what to do, and then every time you're like, does that sound like a good idea? Oh yeah, absolutely. We can do that. Because that's a very quick way of for you to be able to understand, I don't know if these guys actually, like they can do all these things, but they're leaning on us to tell them what to do versus coming in and saying, hey, this is where you guys need to be thinking. You guys should be positioning this way. And, that idea that you brought, love the thought on it, but it's not the best solution for what you're looking for. You need to be doing something over here. So look for an agency who's really going to be bringing in solutions, versus like, we can do this and check all the boxes, okay? I mean, you can do that all day long if you want, but what you really need is an agency who's going to be able to come in and be a partner with you, and really to be able to provide solutions. So, and one last area that I would say is that, and this is just a personal preference, and we talk about it all the time, is the value of digital is that we can really prove out an ROI. And that's what gets us really, really excited. In the full scheme of things, ideally, you should be able to go and say, here's all of our marketing activity, whether it's, we've got ads, email, webinars, whatever all that activity is, trade shows, digital or not, even though, it should all touch a digital footprint in some form or fashion. All of our digital activity, all the way down to CRM and sales opportunities. We should be able to see a line, or at least somewhat of a close connection, looking at pipeline revenue or opportunities. And it should not stop at impressions. So if your agency's coming in, they're reporting on, oh, here's our ROI, we've been able to get X amount of visibility, and here's, we got all these views, or we got, all these social media metrics. Those are great, and, I love it, and that can help be a KPI to point to certain things. But where we are today with digital is we should be able to connect the dots and say, here's marketing activity, here's sales activity, or here's the SQLs that were able to be generated that way. And by that, SQL, sales qualified lead versus a marketing qualified lead. There's other episodes where we talk about that if you're unfamiliar with it. But that's really where we can get, when you can do that through marketing automation and integrating in with the CRM tool. That's where we're at. If you're not there, you need to get there. But make sure that you've got an agency that understands that, and that's the goal, and not just, oh, well, we're just looking for clicks. We just want to get clicks to your website, and that's it. Okay, clicks to the website are great, but we're missing a whole other component. The whole goal of marketing now is really to generate demand, is really to generate sales. That marketing and sales have really, they're aligning, they're coming together. There's so much more crossover, and it's really incumbent upon the marketing teams now to be able to generate real leads and help to be able to generate real business growth. There's a lot of other side benefits from it, obviously, but the point being is we can really start pointing this together, generating that ROI, and that ROI should be pipeline revenue or sales, actual growth. We at IndustrialSage, we talk about, we need to sell to the CFO mentality. The reason why this is so important is because when budget season rolls around in your fourth quarter or third quarter, or whenever you do budgets, that you are able to go and generate reports, go to your CFO, and when you're putting your budgets or whoever you need to get budgets approved by, you can say, I want to increase my budget by X. We did $500,000 last year. I want 750, or I want $1 million, or whatever. Plug in your numbers and be able to say, here's why. Here's what we're going to do with it. Last year, we took $500,000 and we were able to generate $5 million worth of business. We had a 10x, return on that. Okay. So any smart CFO is going to say, oh, okay, well, duh. You did this and you were able to prove out those results. It's a no-brainer. They're going to say, yes, you can have this. You can have the bump or whatever. That's where you have to get. And this is where digital can help. And if you need that and you want that, which you should, you need to align yourself, if you're going to work with an agency, who can help you to be able to do that. And that's where a lot of that value is. Because otherwise, it's pointless. We can be doing all of this activity, but if we can't go back and say, this is what we actually got out of it, or at least be able to begin to tell that story, you're wasting your time. So anyways, that's all I got for you. And hopefully it wasn't too much hey, you need to do this. But that's it. That's what I got for you. If you have any other questions, I'd love, we can keep talking about this. You can reach out to us, IndustrialSage.com/questions. Love to answer for you. Hey, if any of you out there are evaluating working with an agency, check out XK Digital, or Optimum Productions. There's stuff all over the website. We do digital and video marketing and love it for the manufacturing space. Yeah, if you're listening on iTunes or any of the other podcast platforms, I can't talk. We'd love a review and all that good stuff. So keep it up. Keep coming back. Thanks for watching or listening. We'll be back next week with an awesome episode. I'm Danny with IndustrialSage, and I'll catch you next time.